Bowl season is officially here, and NC State has their assignment, heading north to Annapolis to play in the Military Bowl. Salute, Pirates.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Monday opening sponsor is FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place just a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, it is now officially bowl season, also transfer portal season. The transfer portal is officially open for business here on Monday. The conference championship weekend has come and gone. I personally believe they got the CFP right with the 12 teams in. SMU makes the field, even though they lost to Clemson in the conference championship. NC State receives their bowl bid that they have now accepted. It's the Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland, and we're playing against the ECU Pirates. Now, this is interesting to me because we, of course, open the 2025 season against ECU. Why on earth would we have to play them again now? It's not so much a problem that we have to play them because I love beating ECU, and I'm getting fired up already at the thought of this bowl game. Not exactly sure how they arrived at this decision, though, because we're going to see them again in just 8 months.
You know, I was excited at the potential thought of getting NC State in my home state with the Game Above Sports Bowl, formerly the Quick Lane Bowl, but instead we get Grayson's home state with the Military Bowl, which is in Annapolis. I will say this, though. I mean, at the end of the day, beggars kind of can't be choosers.
No.
If you wanted to go to a better bowl game, you wanted to go to a different location, win more. I mean, you know, hey, at the end of the day, you earned the right to go to a bowl game. You earned the right to keep your season going, all that good stuff. You did not earn a damn thing beyond that. You did not earn nothing beyond that, with all due respect. So, you know, you live, you take what you can get, and you move on from there. But I will say this, these reps are going to be invaluable. And you talked about it a lot. I've talked about it. This is the time to get those young guys more reps and get the young guys out there for this bowl game. You know, we talk a lot about, hey, what does it look like in terms of guys redshirting and whatnot? I'm not sure if there's a restriction on when guys can play their 4 games or whatever the case may be. Put some of those young guys out there if it is not an impediment to their redshirt to do so. I'd love to see some of these guys play some ball, especially with the current situation where we're going to be missing some guys who played big roles this year. And I'm just going to say this. The reality of what we're looking at in terms of, hey, we're going to be bringing in a new coach next year in terms of defensive coordinator. Again, guys should be auditioning. Guys should be saying, if you're coming back next year, I've got to put on the show in terms of, hey, whoever the next defensive coordinator is, you can trust me to be an asset, not a liability to this defense.
Yeah, I do have the answer to that, actually. The bowl games do not count against the redshirt eligibility. So even if you have already played 4 games, you can play in the bowl game, and it won't affect the redshirt. Although I don't even think we have anyone that could possibly fall into that category, because you think of guys like Jonathan Paylor, he only played in 2 games. I talk about Elijah Groves again. If you're playing bingo, yes, I said it again here on Monday, but I don't think Elijah Groves got into any games, if I'm not mistaken, so he won't be affected. And to be honest with you, the guys that have already entered their name into the transfer portal, the only one that makes like a significant impact in this game would be the absence of KC Concepcion. But perhaps we're going to see what Jonathan Paylor can do. So I think as things stand right now, NC State's in a good spot to develop everyone that's still on the roster for the rest of this month heading into this bowl game. And I think another real factor to this game, there's a lot of chatter on how much bowl games matter or don't matter when the rosters are so different than the regular season. If NC State is only missing maybe a handful of people for this game and the opponent is ECU, you better believe that this one's going to matter, because Dave Dorn and NC State football, you don't want to lose to ECU in this fashion. I promise you. This game already is ECU's Super Bowl. And we're going to get made fun of for saying that, but it is certifiably true. I saw ECU fans cover Twitter on Sunday begging the Military Bowl, please give us NC State. Give the people what we want. We want to see ECU and NC State in the Military Bowl. Well, you got us now. And better believe NC State's going to be fired up for this one.
My mother always used to say, careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. But second of all, I'm going to give you a phrase that I learned a lot later in life that was taught to me by a random Wolfpack fan. I cannot remember which one at the moment. If you scratch a Pirate fan, a dirty foot clubber bleeds.
Yes, you better believe it. Yeah.
I really don't care for those guys. I don't like them either. I mean, I don't like us, whatever. It is what it is. At the end of the day, if they are, if they're the next team up, they're the next opponent, good. I don't care that it's your Super Bowl. I want to match your intensity because, again, I don't like y'all guys. I don't like y'all. Y'all don't root for us even when you're not involved. Y'all don't show us the slightest modicum of respect or decency. So don't worry. We're going to meet you with that exact same energy. What I've seen multiple people say, hey, say what you want about Coach Dorn, but he really hates UNC. This really is them in purple and gold.
Yeah.
Like this, I have not met a single ECU fan yet that's like, oh yeah, I'm a diehard Wolfpacker whenever ECU isn't playing. Haven't met one yet. I have met some who are all, yeah, I totally love UNC. I wish I would have went there. Da, 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 da. I don't like those guys. I don't want nothing to do with them. I feel like there's a certain pecking order and it needs to be enforced. State has been enforcing that to some degree, but it needs to be enforced even tougher. You need to reinforce it after letting teams like Wake Forest and Duke kind of think that there's something that there isn't going on here. You need to go ahead and reinforce, hey, buddy, this is not the order that it goes in the state of North Carolina. And again, if anybody doesn't believe me, look at our record against all three of those teams after, say integration. So yeah, the reality is simple. In terms of football, there is a pecking order, and ECU is way down it. Show them that they are way down it. Don't treat this game as, we don't care. It's just a bowl game. We're here to have it is a business trip. Go in there and make it very clear. We're doing this to you now in preparation for what's going to happen to you again in 8 months. Enjoy it. We'll see you again soon.
It's funny, we joked after the Carolina game that perhaps Dave Dorn should just treat every single game like he's preparing to play against the Dirty Foot Club. When you're playing ECU, you essentially are playing the Dirty Foot Club. To Kenton's point, these people are just UNC fans. All of them root for the Dirty Foot Club in basketball, I guarantee you. And that's a sweeping generalization. It's not false. They are all Carolina fans. So this is another opportunity for Dave Dorn and NC State football to assert their dominance on that section of fandom within the state of North Carolina. Just another chance to run up the score on all these people that hate us. ECU is pretty much irrelevant, but they hate us. I mean, I'll be honest, I also hate them. There's a lot of NC State fans that feel the same way. We hate ECU. So although the decision to pair the two in a bowl game is peculiar, I am fired up that we do actually get to play an in-state kind of a rival in a bowl game, because that raises the stakes for an otherwise pretty irrelevant bowl. So I think there is something to be said for the matchup itself, but overall, the umbrella of the whole ordeal, what matters the absolute most is all of the additional practices that the young guys on this team get. It's a whole extra month of growing together, building together, learning together, and then you get one last chance to dump it all out against an opponent that you probably do hate against ECU. That is a overall positive. NC State accepts the Military Bowl bid. It is December 28th in Annapolis, Maryland. It's probably going to be a chilly one. This is also at the home stadium of the Navy midshipmen, so it is pretty cool. Kenton already told you, but I grew up in Maryland, so I have been to the stadium. I've been in Annapolis. If you're an NC State fan on the fence of going to this bowl, I recommend it. It's really cool. It's going to be cold. We're playing ECU, but it is a cool place to visit. So take that for what it is, but NC State will be in the Military Bowl against ECU. There was another additional big news item that occurred over the weekend. Defensive coordinator Tony Gibson will be moving on from NC State. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Monday sponsor is Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, you can score an extra $30 off using promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and gift-giving experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off using promo code COLLEGE. That's COLLEGE, college. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off using promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchases may apply, only at omahasteaks.com. Middle portion of our Monday show. Now time for probably some somber news for NC State football fans. Defensive coordinator Tony Gibson has accepted the head coaching gig with the Marshall Herd out in Huntington, West Virginia. Not exactly unexpected news. We even gave you a little bit of a heads up for this on Friday's show. There had been some hints at this over social media, and of course, Tony Gibson had been interviewing around. What's interesting to me about Marshall, though, this is a team that fully just played in their conference championship and won their conference championship, but they're not retaining their head coach, Charles Huff, but that is because he is moving on to Southern Miss. Tony Gibson will leave NC State as defensive coordinator, take the head coaching gig at Marshall. Kenton, what are your thoughts about how big of a loss this is for the Wolfpack?
You know, I think it's a massive loss for the Wolfpack, but the Charles Huff situation is so interesting.
Weird. It's a little weird.
It's so, like, when you look at everything that has happened in that situation, you're kind of left scratching your head because you're looking at a 9-win season, a 6-win season, then a 10-win season where you are in the conference championship. And it's, I'm confused. I'm a little surprised and shocked by this. But now, on to the loss of Coach Gibson. In all seriousness, this is a very big loss for NC State because our defense has been the unit that has held this team down for how long, right? Our defense has been the unit that has made it happen time after time after time for NC State. And so to have Tony Gibson leaving is so unfortunate, and it comes at a very inopportune time where the offense finally looks like they're going to get their act together. Like, this finally looks like an offense where you're like, hey, we have a quarterback that can sling that pill all around the yard. We have multiple receivers that if they were the featured main guy at different schools, I have no doubt in my mind, 800 plus yards, 7 to 8 touchdown guys in terms of Dakari Collins, Noah Rogers, Wesley Grimes, Keenan Jackson, Terrell Anderson, all coming back. And that's not even mentioning our leading receiver in Justin Jolie. So you sit here, who could potentially come back. So you sit here and you look at this moment and you just say, it's tough. It's always tough losing a coordinator who's been as prolific as Tony Gibson has been. But at the end of the day, it's the nature of college football, right? The same way that I advocate for players doing what's best for them and going and finding the jobs and the roles that are right for them in college football as players, I would say the same thing for coaches. And I'm going to say something that one of my mentors in terms of talent acquisition told to me that I want to impart on people here. A great leader doesn't hope that the people under him become leaders themselves. He expects it. He grooms them for it. And so I feel like Tony Gibson has been, groomed in that way of like, hey, you're going to be one of those ones. You're going to be a head coach soon. And at the end of the day, we knew that this day was coming sooner or later. It just happens that today is the day. It's never easy, but it is what it is.
Yeah, like Kenton said there, this is just part of the business. And another thing that I've said, when other schools are looking at your coaching staff and looking at who they can take to make their staff better, it is a compliment because they're looking at NC State and saying, man, they've had a lot of success on the defensive side of the ball. we need some of that at Marshall or wherever it might be. So this is not only a great opportunity for Tony Gibson, it's a compliment, and it's also very well deserved. Tony Gibson, and I don't think this is an exaggeration at all, he is more than likely the reason that Dave Doran is still at NC State. Because you look back at 2019, it was a brutal year. They were riddled with injury. But what they did that next year in 2020, which was only the second year with Tony Gibson on staff, they exceeded expectations by a wide margin. They went 8-4, and then that bled into 2021 and 2022 and 2023. The defense for NC State has been a staple to be depended upon with Tony Gibson at the helm for the last 6 years now. So Tony Gibson has been a massive component to the majority of the success that NC State football has celebrated the last 5 to 6 years. And you think about all the names that Tony Gibson has presided over, like Peyton Wilson and Drake Thomas and Aleem McNeil, Tanner Ingle. We've had some killers on the defensive side of the ball, coached up by one of the best in the business as our defensive coordinator. It's certainly a sour loss for NC State. You never want to see someone as talented as Tony Gibson move on, but nonetheless, it is extremely well-deserved. I'm going to pivot here real quickly, Kenton, because a lot of people are already looking at what should NC State go to next. We have players currently signing on to Savage Wolves for next year. That would make you think that they, one, knew this was coming, and two, they feel good about where the program will be heading very shortly at the defensive side of the ball. A name that I have seen floating around that you would know a lot about is Clayton White. He's the defensive coordinator at South Carolina. Kenton knows him because he was on staff at NC State while Kenton was a player. Kenton, what are your thoughts on potentially bringing Clayton White home?
I struggle to come up with words to kind of quantify the type of man that he is, because when he was a safety coach and special teams coach at NC State, I want people to really think back to what NC State special teams were like at that time. I know that those weren't the best of times during the door in there. It just wasn't, right? It was him first getting here. There were many regards where it felt like you were trying to fit square pegs in the round holes and all that type of stuff. But when you think about that 2013 to 2016 kind of time there, it was a really good time for special teams. And again, him as a human being, great man. He's a very good dude. I have never heard any complaints about him. And here's the thing. I hope you all notice there are certain coaches that I will tell you very honestly and flatly about, hey, this is an amazing human being, and coaches who do not fit that mold. My mother always said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Coach White is one of those coaches that gives me many nice things to say because, again, he's a heck of a coach, man. He's a heck of a coach. He's a heck of a human being, and he's a heck of a recruiter. He does a great job at recruiting. He is a guy that's from the area per se. He's from Dunn, North Carolina. So, you know, this is a guy played for the Pack, if more or less has been a lifetimer for the Pack in some regards. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him home.
Yeah, he's from the area. He played for NC State. He's coached for NC State. There's a lot of connections there. My only real concern here is he has an SEC defensive coordinator job that he is excelling at. That's going to take a pretty hefty price tag. Now, his salary is currently just a little bit less than what Tony Gibson is making, which is $1.5 million. I don't know if that's something that he would jump at, but if NC State has a real shot at this, I think you have to lay the homecoming card on thick. You got to roll out the actual red carpet, so to speak, and make it a big homecoming ordeal. But I don't know. It feels just a little bit unlikely for me because that would be, I hate to say this, it's a little bit of a downgrade. When you're excelling at South Carolina and the SEC, and then you come home to NC State, it is what it is. It's a little bit of a downgrade. I don't know if NC State will take that big of a swing. I kind of expect NC State to look for a G5 defensive coordinator that's excelling at their current stop. We're going to have to see how this all shakes out. But Clayton White is probably the most significant name I've seen floating around. Feel free to tell us y'all's thoughts in the comments. But I would expect NC State to move very quickly on finding a replacement because, as I just told you, we just signed, I think, 4, by my count, defenders on this current team to return in 2025. Have to imagine that they don't sign unless they know that, 1, Gibson's moving on, and 2, they're going to have a replacement here in a relatively short amount of time. So this is certainly a developing story to keep an eye on, but nonetheless, to wrap this up, we wish Coach Gibson and his family all the best in West Virginia. And coming up next, we're going to round out our Monday show with some basketball talk. NC State took Florida State into overtime and escaped with a win in the Lenny. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Monday sponsor is FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action all season long on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in just one singular place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page that you place all of your bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today. You'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets. That first pesky $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com in order to get started. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Last couple minutes of our Monday show. Now switching gears into some hoops talk. NC State men's basketball outlasted the Florida State Seminoles on Saturday, 84-74 in overtime in the Lenny. So NC State will open the ACC season 1-0 in ACC play. This game had a little bit of everything. It had some good things, it had some bad things, it had some frustration, it had some jubilation, it had some overtime, and it had a lot of style, or styles, maybe I should say. Dontrez Styles had kind of the game that a lot of us had been waiting to see from him. He finished with 21 points, 5 boards, 4 for 4 at the free throw line, 3 of 7 from 3, including a couple big-time three-pointers there late in the second half. NC State's three-point struggles kind of still continue, even though they were 34% in this game. A little bit all over the place, much like my analysis here, but they escape with the win, and that's really all that matters moving forward. Good teams find a way to win amongst all of the chaos, and I expect a lot of ACC games this year to end up pretty similar to this one.
I am excited by the fact that one of the longest teams in the ACC, we don't lose the rebounding battle, right? That's exciting. I am excited by the fact that we took care of the ball very well against a team that, again, in Florida State, known for getting in passing lanes, known for forcing turnovers with all that length. I'm excited that we made life extremely, and when I say extremely, I mean extremely difficult on Jameer Watkins when we were not fouling him. Those are all great things. Those are all really good things. I'm still worried about some of the problems that have plagued us all season. How do you go 69% from the free throw line? If you hit your free throws, this game does not go to overtime. And again, Grace and I aren't expecting 100%. But damn, can you give us 80? Can 75? You give us something in that area and we'll be just fine? But instead, we sit here and we look up once again saying, oh man, like, we did a good job, but we could have done a lot better. And for reference here, we know some of those fouls called for Jameer Watkins were a little ticky-tack, whatever. We're not really going to get into that too much. But for reference, that young man made 16 free throw shots by himself. I'm going to say that one more time. He made 16 foul shots by himself. 16 of 17. We, on the other hand, made 20 as a team despite taking 29. So, yes, Dontrez Styles doing what he did from the free throw line, very big time. Yes, Michael O'Connell being the floor general, doing what he does, big time. MOC, 1 of 4 from the free throw line ain't going to get it done, brother. It's not going to get it done. Again, you got to pick a struggle. You cannot be both undersized and bad at shooting threes and bad at shooting free throws. If you're undersized and bad at shooting threes, you need to be good at shooting free throws because your team is going to be predicated on getting into the lane, dribble penetration, making guys foul you. When that happens, make the damn shots. If you are going to be a team that is, terrible at free throw shooting, you've got to be good at three-point shooting because you cannot take that same amount of risk in terms of going in the lane because if you get fouled, it can turn out to be a negative for your team. So something has to give here. I don't know what's going on, but like Grace and I have talked about, we're almost a third of the way through the season. Kind of is who you are. And at this point in time, you've got to be better in one of those regards.
The same struggles that we talked about in the very beginning of the season or after the couple P4 schools that we faced, and even now as we get into ACC play, it's the same issues. It's three-point shooting, even though it wasn't that bad in this game. The free throw shooting That is still bad. 69%, it's not going to cut it. Routinely missing foul shot after foul shot after foul shot. When you play better teams and teams like Florida State, you're going to lose. We just saw this occur actually last week when we played Texas. We lost by 4 and we missed 8 foul shots. That's the type of thing that will keep occurring when you play the Wake Forest and the Dukes and the Louisvilles, whoever it is in the ACC. You can't leave that many points at the foul line. 2 other things that I should have already pointed out. Marcus Hill was spectacular in this game. He had 23
Absolutely.
and 6. His ability to get in the lane and make magic happen thereafter is excellent. I think he's very much emerging as one of the top offensive options on this team. Him and Dontrez Styles appear to be the 2 guys that are going to have to carry the majority of the weight moving forward. Jaden Taylor continues to struggle a bit in the creation of offense because it seems like he's trying to do it all by himself at times. I maintain that he is the best version of himself when he is more than strictly a 3-and-D guy. Have the offense come to you instead of you trying to create the offense. He's going to have to create on some levels, but there's just too much dribbling, too many ill-advised shots, and it just results in turnovers. We have to run right back down the floor. Michael O'Connell had a better game on Saturday than he did against Texas. He had 8 points. He had 3 boards and 4 assists. I still believe that the shooting for MOC, it's coming. I'd be more than comfortable continuing to feed him on open looks because more than likely he's going to hit them at some point. So keep feeding him. A shock for me in this game was B2H. Brandon Huntley Hatfield, he played only 18 minutes. He had 2 points and only 3 boards. I know Keith said post-game that he didn't start B2H because he was late to a practice, and the standard is the standard, and I certainly respect that. I'm still seeing just not enough from him. He's not being physical enough, not rebounding enough. He's not scoring enough. That's a concern for me because this was supposed to be like the most highly coveted transfer that you brought in coming into this season. If he can't produce at a much higher level, I think that becomes a bigger issue for this team down the road.
You know, we are being critical of this team in a win for a reason. First of all, Florida State was not very good last year in conference, right? We can all agree to that. They were not one of the better teams here. Second of all, we're always excited about a win. So don't take this as us saying, oh, this is a bad team. Finding a way to win despite these shortcomings, always a good thing.
It's a good
always
win.
a good thing. With that being said, I want to take y'all down a lane of understanding where we are in terms of percentages so far this season. In terms of three-point shooting percentage on the year, we are the 4th worst in the ACC. In terms of free throw percentage on the year, we are the 4th worst in the ACC. In terms of rebounding, in terms of total rebounds per game on the year, we are tied for 2nd worst in the ACC. That is what I mean by pick a struggle.
Yeah.
Being bad at those 3 things in unison will put you in some hellacious situations against better teams. We're not telling you this because we think it. Grace and I are telling you this because we know it. We know a little bit about ball outside of football. We know a little bit of something about the round ball. And I'm telling you, the combination of those 3 factors working against this team is going to be hard. With that being said, we do appreciate the defensive intensity, the defensive effort, the deflections, and the shot contesting has been phenomenal. It has been phenomenal this year. But again, we need better in those 3 areas, or at least 1 or 2 of those 3 areas, because if not, you're running into a situation where you're basically fighting everybody with 1 arm. You're too small to rebound, but while being too small to rebound, you can't shoot threes well. And while not shooting threes well, you're going to cause terrible spacing. But even if you do find a way to get to the rim off that terrible spacing and you get fouled, you can't convert to free throw attempts. You have to get good at one of those because it all works together. It all works together in terms of, hey, you shoot better, you have to defend less in transition. We don't have a ton of great shot blockers to where you're looking up and saying, hey, NC State is going to be a phenomenal shot blocking team, even though we are one of the better shot blocking teams in the conference right now. You would not expect that to carry on in that type of way to where you're like, hey, we have enough and what it takes to, we're fine in any situation. You want to have a set defense as opposed to defending in transition all the time. And you only do that by making those shots from the three-point line, making those free throws, or finding a way to get rebounds.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect point from Kenton because we're not trying to take away from this win. It was a good win. It's an ACC win that went into overtime and you found a way to take it home. That is good always. 10 out of 10 times we will be pleased with that. The reason that we're pointing out our concerns is because it's going to get a lot tougher when you face the teams like Kansas, which is coming up this coming weekend, or when you face the Dirty Foot Club or Duke or whoever else is going to end up sitting atop the ACC, probably like Pitt because they're playing good basketball right now. It's going to get tougher when you can't pick a struggle like Kenton was talking about. If you can't shoot well from deep or you can't shoot well at the foul line and you can't rebound, all of those things are going to compound against you when you play good basketball teams. Now, again, I think the ACC is going to be a mess this year, and you certainly hope that NC State can take advantage of that. And I do think they can, but there's a lot of things that are kind of plaguing this team right now, and you're going to have to find a way to sort through what you can improve upon or what you're going to have to deal with. And so I think that is the questions being posed for this team right now. Nonetheless, it was a great win, 84-74 in overtime, starting the season yet again, 1-0 in ACC play. Take that for what it is, and onward we move. That'll do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you think about playing ECU in the Military Bowl. Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Are you ready to beat them yet again because those folks out east have been talking too much? Tell us what you think about Tony Gibson taking the Marshall head coaching job, leaving NC State after serving as their defensive coordinator for the last 6 years, and anything else you have on your mind, even basketball-wise. Drop that in the comment box. Smash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Tuesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.